What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Peer Pleasure with Dewey Halpus on Jabberjaw Media. I am Dewey, your host with the most, bringing you more great content week after week. Guys, welcome to episode 100. Episode 100 of Peer Pleasure. I am so stoked to bring you this episode. This was an interesting one because I wasn't sure who was going to be episode 100. It's a milestone for the show, and I wanted to have, I'm a fan of all the episodes. If it doesn't go well, I wouldn't put it out. But this one was awesome for me. This one was a great one. One of my favorite musicians of all time, someone who has been a big part of my life musically, and just a huge influence on me growing up, discovering punk rock, finding my way in music, having a band to latch on to. And so Lars Fredericksen from Rancid, the Old Firm Casuals, Lars Fredericksen, the Bastards. What an awesome opportunity to be able to sit down with Lars. We did about an hour and a half, and what a fun conversation we had. We went all over the place. And like I told Lars, and I say pretty much every week, this show is more of a conversation than an interview. And we don't usually have a lot of structure, which I like, and I think you guys do as well, where it's more of a real conversation between two people. And it also brings, people that have somewhat of a celebrity into a normal light, just being able to listen in on a conversation between two people. So that's exactly how this one went. We had a great chat, talked about a lot of things. He's got some pretty crazy stories that are on this episode. Pretty crazy stuff. I didn't expect anything less either, because he's been very outspoken with, his childhood and the things he's gone through. And he's coming on the other side, doing really well. He's been in some amazing bands. He remains in some amazing bands and is a huge influence to a lot of us. So big thanks to Lars for coming on the show and being so graceful. And I'm really stoked to bring you guys this episode. I know I've taken a couple weeks off, and sometimes you have to do that. We've got all sorts of things going on, but we are backlogged with episodes, so we're going to have a bunch coming out here. So again, big thanks to Lars. Big thanks to Christina at Mutiny PR for setting this up, and big shout out to her. So let's get some business out of the way before we jump into things here. PeerPleasurePodcast.com is the website. We have all kinds of new stickers coming out from our sponsor, Sticker Ninja. StickerNinja.com is now the website for Sticker Ninja. Peer Pleasure 10 will get you 10% off your order. Use that coupon code when you go over there. I know you guys have seen our stickers. They're absolutely fantastic quality. Sticker Ninja is your one-stop shop for everything stickers. They have made, you guys probably saw them on the Instagram, they've made 12-inch pentagram stickers for us. They just made glow-in-the-dark stickers for us. It's absolutely just one-of-a-kind company. Mom and pop shop, just fantastic. And totally stoked to be working with them. We're also stoked to be working with artistflags.com. I know you've seen the flags that are up on the Instagram and website. Those are still available for order through the store. And you can also DM me on Instagram or anywhere else of the socials and get your hands on some of those. And also Merge 4 socks. Merge 4 socks have been an awesome sponsor as well. Again, I know you guys have seen the Instagram of those new socks, but they are fantastic, super comfortable. Check out Merge 4 and artistflags.com on Instagram. Also Sticker Ninja and stickerninja.com. Peer Pleasure 10 is the code. Utilize that code for 10% off and get yourself some stickers. Really appreciate having them on board. So with this episode 100, I got a lot of calls in from different past guests and friends to the pleasure line talking about, congrats on 100 episodes, which was totally awesome. And there was so many. I'm going to actually make a mini episode to showcase those. I didn't want to put them into this episode because we went an hour and a half with Lars. So I'm going to put out a mini episode with another special guest of a shorter interview that I did. So that'll be out either later this week or next week. But we got a lot of great stuff coming up, guys. And thank you to everyone who called in to the pleasure line and wished us a congratulations on episode 100. And those messages will be on that special episode. It's going to be a bonus. So without further ado, guys, I want to get into episode 100. Let's knock this one down with my man Lars Fredericksen from Rancid and the Old Firm Casuals. Lars, how you doing, man?
Hey, Dewey. How's it going, buddy?
Oh, it's going great, dude. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Same shit, different day.
Hanging in there, huh?
Yeah,
Right
just
on.
trying to get through another day.
Sure.
Got one of my little guys I didn't expect it, but he's home sick today. So.
Oh man, do we need to reschedule or?
No. We're good.
Okay.
Are you gonna watch TV in here? Hold on. One second. All right. So you watch TV in here. I'm gonna go in here. Yeah. All right. You don't have to follow me around now. Okay. Seriously, stop. All right. You want to know what happens when punk rockers have kids?
Dude, I have 3 myself. I totally understand.
So you know.
Dude.
I mean, every time, dude, it's like, fuck, my bloodline. There was something wrong. I shouldn't have breeded. Because they just turn out to be assholes sometimes. Yeah.
I totally understand, dude. There's been times I've had to do this show in the bathroom with a blanket over the door, like it's you know what I mean? Like it's insane. Dude. I don't think anyone understands truly what it means to be a parent, especially of kids like under 5, under 10 even. I mean, yeah. Good Lord.
Yeah. Jesus.
Well, this might be the best beginning ever for.
Yeah, I mean, my wife is like, man, they're just they're so crazy. And I said, you should have interviewed better. You know what I mean? Like, you should know this about me, So, but she's had her crazy past too. So, but. It's all relative. They're good kids. They got good hearts, and they have legitimate empathy, for things. So, you just hope that you do your job as the best you can, but
sure.
But everybody's going to have a fucked up childhood. I'm sorry. I don't, even the ones with the perfect childhoods, that's a fucked up childhood.
Dude, I believe that wholeheartedly. So I was raised in a Mormon household, and my mom's side of the family and my dad's side of the family. My dad's side of the family was totally, their own people and awesome people, but I was never allowed to hardly ever see them because my mom's side of the family was the Mormon side of the family. And that's the one we visited on vacation. That's the one we always heard about. Right. Turns out that was the most fucked up side of the family ever. Like, it was insane, and the amount of resentment and buried down angst and it was insane. It fucked me up forever.
Yeah.
But seemingly as a kid, it seemed great. Like, I was like, wow, everything works. And I had that stability, but then at the same time, when you realize it's all false, it's even harder than just growing up in the shit,
No, for sure.
Oh, my God. Well, Lars Fredericksen, welcome to the Pure Pleasure Podcast, my friend.
Well, thank you for having us. Me.
Dude.
Us, I'm just looking at my kid, Like,
yeah.
Us, it's not us. Oh, sorry. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I've been a fan of what you do for a long time. Grew up in Alaska, and we flew down, I think, I don't remember. We flew down to do some demos and hit Seattle, and you guys happened to be playing it at Rock Candy when it was still around. And, man, I think it was you guys and shit. Who was it with? I don't know if it was Hepcat or, man, it was fucking awesome though. That's the first time we got to see you guys live, with Rancid.
Was this 98?
Possibly. Yeah. I came down in 2000. So it was, man, my grandpa let us borrow the minivan to drive into Seattle. We saw it in the paper. We're like, holy shit, we have to go. And, yeah, it had to be 98, 97, 98.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
So a long time. I
remember that club. Yeah, cool. Well,
yeah,
thank you.
So it was rad, and then we ended up doing Warped Tour 2003, I think, with my band Anatomy of a Ghost at the time. And I think you guys were on like a week of it or something like that, like popped in, popped out.
Yeah. It's all blur.
Yeah.
To be honest.
so like I say, I've been a fan of you guys for a long time and what you do. And so I was stoked we got to chat. But
Awesome.
speaking of origins, on this show, we just kind of tell the story. Where do you come from? Tell me a little bit about your childhood. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot there, but, you know, that's a good way to start.
Okay, well, you know, my mom and dad, my mom was a Danish immigrant, grew up during World War II, Nazi-occupied Denmark. My dad was born in Albany, California. Okay. And they met in, I think, 66 in San Francisco, had my brother in 67, and then moved around. And then I was born in 71 in Campbell. So, you know, he was pretty much out of the picture by the time I was about 3. I remember going to Denmark with my mom, and she had taken both me and my brother over there. And, yeah, I mean, it was a pretty, you know, it was a pretty crazy little childhood. I don't think, you know, at the time I could go, oh, this is crazy. I really do feel that having so much space away from it all, and then having my own children and kind of seeing, you know, how crazy my existence actually was. Mm-hmm. You know, it took a second to kind of like register a little bit, because, you know, when you're in the fucking chaos, you don't really realize that, hey, maybe this isn't normal, or maybe this isn't cool, or whatever it is. But I do believe that, like, that everybody's experience, you know, whether or not they think it's unique or whatever it is, it sort of shapes who you become to be, mm-hmm. in good and bad ways. You know, for me, growing up, you know, it was just my mom, and it was low income housing where we were living. And, you know, we were working poor before there was a fucking term, you know? Yeah. So, I think that survival instinct kicked in with me very early on, just because the household was chaotic, you know, and the shit that, you know, my dad was pretty much out of the picture. And when he would come around, you know, he'd be shit hammered or something, you know, he'd be drunk, or, you know, he wasn't violent with us, but he had a lot of consequences because of his drug and alcohol addiction, and ended up in prison. You know, he shot the lady and her boyfriend, or, you know, he caught the lady that he was cheating on my mom with. He caught her cheating, so he unloaded his gun through the door, you know, and ended up going to prison. And you know, the ironic thing about it is I remember the first place he came was to my mom's house and gave her the bag with the gun in it, you know.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So it was you know, I got a lot of stories like that. And, you know, I don't blame my parents for, you know, what my childhood was. I just think that, you know, my mom being, you know, an absolute saint, and I really do believe that. You know, my dad just never really knew my dad didn't even know how to be a father. You know, he was made a ward of the court when he was like 4 or 5 years old. His mother, like, basically, you know, went, you know, I think it was 12, 13 years before he saw his mother again, it was on the West Coast, and she was on the East Coast. She had been married again for the 4th time, all to Navy guys. And then when he finally found her out in Virginia, you know, they signed him up to the Navy when he was 17 and shipped him off again. So I think that, you know, all those experiences that both my parents had, you know, I can't necessarily say that they were, you know, they shouldn't have been parents, but I will say that they parented it as best as they could, you know? Okay. And so there's no like animosity or ill will, there for me. You know, obviously there was, you know, some damage, you know, but thank God there was, because I probably wouldn't have found punk rock. I probably would have been afraid to express myself. I probably would have been afraid of, you know, a lot of things in my life, you know? Yeah. So I, you know, in a weird way, I'm like, sort of grateful. I'm in gratitude about the situation, because I think that if I didn't have those experiences as a kid, you know, with the chaos, I don't think I would have, I don't think I would have been able to do what I'm doing now, if that makes sense. And I know that sounds strange and fucked up, but it's just kind of the truth, you know?
Yeah. It doesn't sound strange or fucked up. It's like definitely unique take on it, but it's kind of a refreshing take on it. Like a lot of people I talk to have, either rough childhoods or I mean, just completely awful childhoods. One thing I know from reading a lot on this subject is kids don't know what normal is. Like
True.
they don't. And so they learn from, what's around them. That's
Correct.
their normal. And
Correct.
the fact that you took that experience and I mean, because you've been touring a long time, and it was I mean, the money wasn't always there, and I mean that's hard shit. I mean, when you're out there trying to make your way, sleeping in vans or squats, or I mean, it's terrifying for a young person, that doesn't.
But that's the thing. I wasn't really terrified of that because I was doing that already.
No, exactly. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. You prepared you for that. Like when you come from a childhood that's not like that, I mean, it's easy to fail. It's easy to bail on it and not stick it out, because there's something else. When you don't know there's something else, you just go for it, I mean, you said your mom was in World War II. She was around during the occupation?
Yeah, she was alive and well. And, her brother.
God.
Yeah, no, I mean, she saw some shit that, obviously it's only up until since maybe the last 10 years that she's really sort of opened up to me about it. She would do tidbits here and there. Me and my brother used to see it in the house a lot. I mean, she used to take the little pieces of soap, like when you wear a piece of soap down and it becomes like a little sliver.
Yeah.
Yeah. She would take them and collect them and then build a bar of soap out of them.
Holy shit.
And me and my brother used to tease her and just go, "Mom, the Nazis ain't coming for you anymore. Like, let's buy a new fucking bar of soap."
Yeah.
But that was the one thing about growing up with her, though. We grew up in that sort of environment, that European environment. Like I never really felt like I fit in to, that quote unquote American, Leave It to Beaver kind of thing happening.
Yeah.
My mom was very open. She would talk about sex and race and I mean, actually, honestly, I didn't really figure out the race thing until I was like in my teens. Like my friends growing up were, the Vietnamese that came over in the 70s because, Jimmy Carter let them in. Mm-hmm. Fu Chow was one of my best friends. Anthony Moreland, he was black. Like the next block over, Sobrato, there was a lot of Mexicans and, a lot of gangs and shit like that. Mm-hmm. And we used to hang out and party together. Like there wasn't, we weren't in their world, they weren't in our world, but we had a mutual respect for each other. And the one thing, the commonality that we all had, although we did fight and we did, do some stupid shit, is that we were all poor,
Gotcha.
And so I didn't really see race. I didn't know anything about religion until a lot later, and my introduction to religion was like Jim and Tammy Faye Baker, people who say that, they give us your money for God.
Yeah.
I never really judged, people. And that's the thing. It's like when, people shit talk on the internet or whatever, it's 99.9% of the time people shit talk. It's because they can't do what you do. Mm-hmm. And they're jealous of that. And so the only way that they can actually feel good about themselves is by putting another person down. In my neighborhood, we rooted for each other. And in this community, when I found punk rock, we were all misfits. We were all, sort of the outcasts, and we were like the outcasts that made something. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There was black, there was white, there was gay, there was straight, there was male, there was female, there was fucking, the whole gamut, of types of people. And we all came together. I mean, it was a violent, crazy motherfucking time. I was 10, years old when I went to my first show, got my ass kicked and got stoned too. But, and then, I went to juvenile hall the first time when I was 11 years old. So like, there was my learning experience, it was a crash course in a lot of ways. And unfortunately for my mother, there wasn't a lot of control for her. And I think that, me and my brother were just on a different path. And I think we reacted a lot to situations, it was, fists first, questions later, and I think that's a lot of the way we sort of learned. And then, after you get your ass handed to you a few times, you sort of start to figure out that maybe, hey, there's maybe another way or whatever. But, you know, it's just, there's always going to be somebody who's a better fighter than you, smarter than you, a better guitar player or whatever it is. You're always going to find somebody else out there that does something that you do better. And I just never been in that place of like putting somebody down for making something of themselves. I just think it's just kind of stupid. It's, jealousy is like such a strange thing to experience, and everybody experiences it. We're all human and stuff, but for me, growing up in that environment, we were all kind of treated the same. And my mom treated everybody. Social Distortion crashed at my house when I was 11 years old. My mom's making them frozen hamburgers before the gig. It's like, that's what my mom hated. My mom hated the fact that we were fucking punk rock or into the shit, or shaved our heads or did whatever, wore boots and all that shit. But any of our friends who came over looking crazy or just as crazy, and for case in point, Social Distortion or whatever it was, it's the guys in Social Unrest or whoever it was, who came over and crashed, got in a fight with their parents. Guess whose house they came over to? They came over to our house because my mom took them in, because my mom knew that, like, what we were doing, I think secretly she accepted it. We never, like I said, had religion or any kind of like, we're better than anybody else or worse than anybody else. We never had any of that. And like I said, I didn't really experience that until I'm into my teens. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't because I was sheltered. It's just, we just didn't think of things like that.
Sure. Sure.
We just didn't. We didn't. And the punk rock thing was perfect because, when you started kind of experiencing like, oh shit, I don't feel like I fit into this. And for me, it happened very early. Of course, like, then you had all the episodes of fucking the TV sitcoms, whether it was Quincy or Chips or fucking, the Donahues and all those fucking other ones doing The Day My Son Turned Punk or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And just the countless experiences I had of just trying to, all I wanted to do was express myself, and just do what I was fucking going to do. And I became a little skinhead, at the age of 10, 11 years old. Because my brother was into the skinhead thing. Mm-hmm. And, we just kind of wanted to do our own thing, make life on our own terms, and then the oi music came in and, punk rock. And it was like liberating, it was like a lightning bolt had fucking struck us, and it was like, this is what we are. This is what we finally have, like this identity, and that's pretty cool to have, because you kind of figure out what you are. And I think, not only the chaos that was happening in, my childhood with my mom and my dad or whatever, and then also the realization that, like, there's a whole world out there that's just not that fucking cool. and then having the realization of like, oh, I don't really fit into that world. I don't feel like I fit into that world. Mm-hmm. And then you find something that that you feel like is like, oh fuck, here's the answer. And then having that realization when you're 10 and 11 years old. So, and that's, we're talking before puberty,
Yeah. Back then, anyways.
Yeah. I used to shave my head and everybody thought I was a little girl,
What?
So,
dude,
I don't know.
So
it was nuts.
Well, what I'm gathering from a lot of this is, you're not, when you say fist first, ask questions later, did that stem from anger or did that stem from more from survival? From what I'm gathering, you don't sound like an angry person or someone that was, reacting out of anger, more like it was like a reflex. Was that more like what you're getting at here with the, where you weren't like out seeking like, oh, fuck this guy up because of this, or because I'm so angry or pissed off? Was it more just like you got your ass kicked at that show and that was kind of like a, whoa, wake up call.
Well, that was actually from my brother and his friends who thought I was somebody else and jumped me. You know what I mean?
Shit.
So, yeah. So, I think it was a little bit of both, I think that, I'm angry now. I just know how to, sort of, deal with it better, manage it better. Mm-hmm. And I'm probably more angry now that I've had children and I see this fucked up world that they're living in.
Yeah.
And you get resentful and it's really easy to get caught up in the fucking, the bullshit, and because it's not just like your own little safe little happy world, and it's the people these days, there's no room for anybody to talk. Nobody comes together at a table and sits down and discusses their ideas. You see these little fucking arrogant little college cocksuckers fucking, delivering their inner monologues that about how they feel and how you're wrong. And it's like, it's just ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. Everybody's on eggshells about what they say, how they say it, what they're thinking. And it's like that. It's not where I came up from. And call me a fucking dinosaur if you want to. I don't give a fuck. I made a life choice, and that was punk rock. And the reason why I went to it, because there was no fucking rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as soon as you started fucking having these bands that wanted to put their little fucking politically correct spin on it, and say, this is the rule book, and you have to do this. You can't throw shoes at concerts. You can't dance at shows. You can't do this, and they're putting fucking Kleenex dispensers on their fucking backpacks, coming to Gilman Street. It's just, it was, it's like, you entitled little college fucking kid, you know what I mean? If 4 years from now, after your mommy and daddy are done paying for your fucking, high level education, you're going to be gone. You're going to be gone from this. And the real working class kids are going to still be here doing what we've been doing for the whole fucking time. You know what I mean? And I feel like the anger comes from a lot of the places that you would think, as far as like in society and in politics, and just the way that, it's not necessarily I'm afraid of the change or I'm angry at the change, because I definitely think that change is always good. You know what I mean? The world has to evolve.
Yeah, it's inevitable.
Otherwise you end up in a situation that we're in now. And that's exactly what we're in. The world wasn't changing. You know what I mean? And now it came to a boiling point. And I understand it's all temporary. But in the meantime, like, it's been long enough, people. Now we can sit down and talk about it. It's like, the freedom of speech, is just being threatened by both sides of the aisle. And it's just ridiculous. I mean, that's a uniquely Western idea. And I think the survival instinct for me, that used to kick in was because I wanted a better life for myself. And if I was being threatened physically, mentally, whatever it was, then I was going to defend myself. And because, you know what? Like, if I'm wrong, I'll apologize. And I'll try to make the amends if necessary to change my behavior around something. Because I can learn. Everybody makes fucking mistakes. And something that you did 20, 25 years ago shouldn't reflect on what you are 25 years later. It has. Everybody should know that every 5 years you fucking change, really.
Yeah. I agree with that.
So for me, like, you're asking, or you're saying your statement was you don't seem so angry. Well, it's because there was a lot of change that took place.
Yeah.
I learned how to manage certain things a little bit better, and other things I gotten more poor at. That's the challenge of life. It's so fucking temporary, and everybody's so caught up in their own fucking bullshit and up their own goddamn ass. They forget that there's a whole big world around them, and nothing is black and white, man. It's all gray. And it's like, that's where you have to exist. And I don't want to, I know it sounds like I'm fucking preaching and, or maybe I'm just sounding like a parent, but like, either way, it's like, that's just what my experience is. And like, I'm not here to tell anybody how to live their lives,
Well, sure. And you don't want that either. You don't want someone telling you the same thing.
No, once you start telling people that you can't say this, you can't dress this, you can't act that way, you have to do this, you have to that's fascism without the dictator. You know what I mean? And that's what's at stake here. That's what's really at stake here, is that, I'll tell you what, man, no matter how far, it doesn't matter if you're a liberal or a fucking Republican or whatever you are. If you take yourself too fucking seriously and you go so far to the left or go so far to the right, guess what? You meet right in the center and you have more in common than you think, because you're an asshole. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm about as liberal as they come. Like, political talking points, they're, for me, racism and sexism and homophobia and stuff, they're not political talking points. They're moral. It's wrong. It's like racism is wrong. Sexism is wrong. Homophobia is wrong. Women's equality, the fact that we're still talking about women being underpaid in the workplace. Like I thought,
oh yeah.
Just look at these little examples. Well, they're not little examples. They're very big, gigantic, enormous examples. But my point is that they're the difference between right and wrong.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. It seems like a basic, it should be more common sense, like
it's a basic human right.
Yeah. It's insane how long the argument has been going on and how many jokes and how it became commonplace as a joke that especially with women's equality where, so-and-so's, this woman's making this much less than this man or this much on the dollar. And it just turns into like a known thing that no one really does anything about. They just joke, or just accept it, and move on. Or they're the male who's making the, 20 grand more a year that of course they're not going to say something about it, or bring it to anyone's attention or stand up for it.
Right. I think, when things get swept under the carpet, eventually it becomes a big pile, and you get a big lump in the floor, and then after a while, you just get tired of walking around it,
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where we're at as a society in a lot of ways, and like I said, that's just, a lot of the anger gets fueled from there, a lot of the, the survival mechanisms get fueled from there, and you just, I don't know. I think it's one of those things that's always going to be in me. I think some level of anger, some level of survival instinct, but I just think fear has been the one thing that like, I never really, would let I kind of refused to let my life be taken over by that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's what motivates a lot of people, because if you look at society, everybody's like working their fucking fingers to the bone, and trying to make ends meet. And I live in, in San Francisco, and this is like the most expensive city to fucking exist in. And I just, there's no more faces around here with smiles on them. It seems like, you'll find it hard,
Yeah.
And it's changed so much. And I just think, technology, no one's taking responsibility for it or being accountable. I mean, the way that they collect your information, I don't know. This is a whole other fucking podcast. So
Dude, no, this is good. This is good. Yeah. This is what this whole podcast is about, man, it's just a conversation. It's loose. It's we go all over the place. If you hear other episodes, you're gonna see exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. Like gotcha. We talk to musicians, but it's very rarely about music.
All right, fair enough. Well, but I just think that everybody is kind of sucked into the to the vortex, including myself. I'm not innocent here. You get caught up in the bullshit of it all. You know what I mean? And you forget what's really truly real. And sometimes it takes like disaster. Not to quote a Rancid song, but it takes disaster to learn a lesson, I just did, by the way.
Oh, I know. Whatever. That's what I'm saying. The Rancid stuff is so true to life. I think that's why it's so accessible to people to really, make it a part of their life you're telling stories. You're using people's actual names. Like it's just true to form, and it makes sense because it comes from a true place.
Well, for me, like with this like latest Old Firm Casuals record,
yeah,
like it was, I kind of made the record with this like, sense of, it's definitely like facing my own immortality in a lot of ways, because as you get older and as you've experienced yourself with kids, you start to see that you never think about that, and you want to make sure that you're leaving behind something, whether it's financially or spiritually or the love, or the emotional stuff, or the connection, you start kind of going in your head about it, and it can be a trap too, because that can be also a dangerous place as well, because there's nothing you can really do change the here and now, except for to be in it, right? To exist in it.
Yep.
And, if I'm worried about the past, then I'm out of the present. Right. And if I'm worried about the future and like what's going to come there, then I'm just like, I'm not going to be in today, which is like the real, it's like, I'm going to miss the thing that I'm trying to experience with my children or whoever it is today,
Yeah.
And I think the technology, the way how it's just going so freaking fast, and everybody's so dependent upon it. Excuse me.
Uh-huh.
I feel like a lot of we're missing that humanity. And I think that's why we're there. There's like this, the Cro-Mag said it best: an age of coral. It's like that's where we're at, man.
Mm-hmm.
We're in for a big shift. And I think people think that all of this money, property, and prestige is going to last forever. And the bubble does burst,
Yeah.
It bursts for everybody at some certain time, maybe once, maybe twice, maybe 10,000 times. I don't really know. I know it has for me,
Mm-hmm.
It's just, when we're not prepared for that, it's like the end of the world. It's like, you look back in history with the first stock market crash, in
Mm-hmm.
America, people are jumping out of buildings and, the bread lines and the whole fucking thing. Like you look at that's due to happen again. It's like people in the Bay Area, I remember after the 89 quake, there was like a 27% occupancy rate in this town because everybody who, San Francisco is obviously a very transient city.
Yeah.
But, they all moved out.
Mm-hmm.
They all moved out, and the same kind of shit's going to happen again because it's not able to sustain itself. And people are in this false illusion that it will. And they're, the self-driving cars and all this other crazy shit. It's like, are you that fucking lazy?
Dude.
Are you that fucking lazy? Like WALL-E come to life.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like Idiocracy too. That right. Movie too foreshadowed the future is crazy. Like absolutely insane.
It's insane. And I can't believe people think that they're actually doing humanity a service.
Yeah.
You're not. You're actually, if you're doing anything, you're stripping all of the humanity.
But they're going to make so much money off of it.
Well, but
that's the thing. Like they're so driven.
But that's what I'm talking about is everybody's so afraid they're not going to be taken care of. And they're looking for, and I've been in that trapping too. Like you look for those other things that are going to save you,
Yeah.
And, in some cases they did like music or whatever it was,
mm-hmm.
or, the other experiences I've had in my life. But, the one thing that I will say after all of this is said and done, like, I've never, ever heard anybody on their deathbed say, man, I wish I would have worked more.
Yeah. That's a good point.
And I think that, it's hard for me to sometimes get completely honest about, the things that I feel, the things that I see, because, you never ever want to be that person that sounds like the old tired fuckhead that should just fucking split. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Lord knows I have a tendency to be the old tired fuckhead that should fucking split. But, that record for me, Hold Her Down, it meant a lot of things, for me. And it's, it was a political record in the sense that it's very, fascism is alive and well, and it masks itself as so many different fucking things.
Mm-hmm.
And you really take the time to look, you'll see that what's happening in this world is fucking exactly that. And everybody's responsible for it,
mm-hmm.
mm-hmm. including, myself, everybody.
Oh yeah.
And, and it's just, we'd rather we're stoked to get a package from Amazon, but when fucking, the president, whatever, I'm not even going to go there, but it's just because I remember thinking George Bush was the devil. And then all of a sudden, fucking Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
God bitch, if there is a God bitch slapped everybody, said, nope, I got something worse,
Yeah.
So, politicians can't trust them, right? The system, They've made you believe that you can't trust it. Look at the judicial system. It's corrupt. It's scary.
Yeah.
It's so biased. It's such bullshit. You know what I mean? You can't even, it's just, it's so strange, you know? I mean, from when I was a kid to where we are now, you know?
Yeah.
And I was always pretty conscious about, you know, what was happening in the world. I mean, I was worried, I was worried in the 80s. I was worried about the nuclear war, Russia.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to too many Crucifix and Discharge records, and while my other friends were playing with Legos,
Yeah. I was just saying, you're 10 years old. I mean, you being that young and thinking you wanted to carve a better life for yourself, even thinking that way at that age shows you grew up way fast. From your situation at home and everything else. I mean, having that kind of an outlook at that young is insane. You wouldn't even imagine that now with anybody at that age. They're so tied up in screens and everything else. It's what a gift to have that drive at that young of an age, and that kind of fortune.
Yeah, well, I just kind of knew that, if I stayed where I was and I had some pretty heavy experiences, at the very beginning, of my teen years, it was sort of a snapshot what would be if I kept doing what I was doing,
You said you went to juvenile hall at 11?
Yeah.
Was that for fighting?
It was for a few things. Basically, me and this guy, Mike Newman, who's now dead, he died a few years after this. He and I, we had these girls we knew in San Jose, and we took the bus there, cut school.
Mm-hmm.
I was led to believe that they were going to be there. They weren't, so we broke into the house. So there's rule break number one.
Shit.
So, and I had some PCP, and so we started smoking some dust, and then we went into the refrigerator and started drinking all the beer. And so I still had a little bit of PCP, so there was rule break number 2, right? So this is, obviously, after the cops come, right?
Yeah.
So there was a little dog barking at me. I remember I had a pack of Tidal Wave chewing gum, and it just had come out. It was like the gum with the liquid center. It was all the fucking rage, and it was green apple, if I remember correctly. So, in true fashion, because I don't do anything half-assed, I put the whole pack of gum in my mouth because the dog was barking and barking, and that was a bad trip, man. When you're on PCP, number one, you don't want anything, it was just a bad trip. So I chewed up the whole pack of gum and I wrapped the dog in chewing gum. So I got cruelty to animals.
Oh my gosh.
And it happened to be this show-winning dog too.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and then as the day went on, Mike started trying to get physical with me, and he was a bigger guy. And so I took his eyeball out with a piece of the racing track. I pinned him down and I took his eyeball out of his skull.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I know. I went for his eyeball. I wanted to break his eyeball.
You're high out of your fucking mind at 11 years old.
Fucking mind, yeah.
Holy fucking shit.
Yeah, so I ended up leaving. I somehow got home, and about 4:30 in the evening, there was a call at the house, and my mom had to drive me over to the house that we broke in, and Mike was there, and there was an ambulance, and he had a big old patch over his eye.
Uh-huh.
And they threw us in the back of the car, and they took us to juvie. And I got busted for breaking and entering. I think it was mayhem, which is the malicious act.
Yeah, holy fuck.
Cruelty to animals and possession of
controlled substance, but Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so that was it was pretty gnarly.
Did he lose the eye?
No, they popped it back in.
Holy shit. Popped it back in before they took him to juvie?
Yeah, I left it in there. I remember going to get a knife to stab him, and
oh my God,
because he was getting really gnarly with me.
Yeah.
I told him, I remember telling him, "Stop, dude, stop! It hurts. And then I just reacted,
Yeah.
but I was a smaller guy than him. He was a pretty big dude, you know, figuratively, you know?
Yeah.
And he was like 13 and I was 11. So, yeah, it was pretty gnarly, man. But he ended up dying. Him and Felix Stereo and one other kid who survived, and they got hit by a drunk driver. They were spending the night at this place called Bonnie Dunes in Santa Cruz, and I was actually supposed to go with them, and I didn't go for some reason. And the next morning, we heard that they got killed.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, there's a lot of that shit in my life.
Yeah.
You know, I remember, I'll keep his name out of it, but because I don't want to give him any credit. And I think he ended up dying anyways, but being in my back alley and with my friend John, and one of the sort of the enemies I had pulled a gun in my face and pulled the trigger, and the gun didn't go off. And John grabbing the gun out of the guy's hand and throwing it in the garbage can, and as it hit the garbage can, the gun went off.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, just like little shit like that, you know. Some stuff like that happened, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't really like to talk about it too much, just because it's just kind of, you know, for me, it's I don't even know why I fucking just told you, but whatever. I guess I'm comfortable. But yeah, I don't know. I just did that. It was crazy.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, fuck, man. I remember, I'm trying to, and I may be completely off here, and I remember, I don't know why this sticks out with me, but we used to always, growing up in Alaska and, you know, listening to, we got into punk rock through like Lookout Records, mail order, like Op Ivy, and then into Rancid, of course. But we were always like it was still before the internet was huge. So any kind of publication or interviews we could find and stuff, we were trying to kind of like, because we didn't have a huge scene up there. So we were trying to like garner what we could or glean what we could from these things. And I would always like latch on to these quotes. And I don't remember if this is something you actually said, but for some reason, when I was prepping for this interview, it came back to my mind, and it was about like substance abuse and drinking and everything else. When you decided to stop, I remember reading something where it said, when I woke up and shit blood, I realized it was something like that. I realized it was time to stop. Is that something that you said?
I think it might have been, yeah.
It was in like a Rolling Stone or some huge magazine, but it was basically talking about, you know, hitting the bottom of the barrel and getting out of that. And for some reason that stuck in my mind, and I was like, God damn, like I can't even imagine. But
no, I you know, the thing with that for me, like I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't even smoke cigarettes anymore. Like, you know, I'm not, you know, I don't claim to be straight edge or anything like that. It's just kind of like my choice, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I had my bouts with substances and alcohol. And I think for me, like, you know, going through those experiences of using, you know, narcotics or whatever the fuck it was, just to sort of kind of, I don't know, mask the pain, try to get out of myself or whatever it was, you know?
Yeah.
Or just, it was like a rite of passage being in this fucking scene. It's just kind of what you did, you know? You know, but once I kind of, I'll explain it like this. Like, you know, I have an allergic reaction to drugs and alcohol. And the allergic reaction is that every time I use them, I break out into handcuffs.
There you go.
So, yeah. So for me, it's just not worth it anymore, you know? And I don't really want to be in the place where, you know, I'm using something to kind of numb myself. You know, I just don't want to be that way anymore. You know, I don't want to take something to alter my mind. Like I'm already altered it fucking enough, you know, like I don't need anything to mellow me out. You know, I don't, you know, well, actually I do, but you know, I just don't fucking, you know, go that route with it anymore. And it's just a choice. It's I can be around it. I don't, you know, it doesn't bother me fucking at all. But I will say that, like, you know, using, you know, drugs and stuff is just, for me, it just doesn't work. Like I don't fit with it. Like I don't, what happens to me is major consequences.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have enough major consequences without being fucked up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't really need to do that. And honestly, man, it's like, I don't really find any enjoyment. You know, I don't like being like that, you know, anymore. You know, I used to live for it,
mm-hmm.
but it just, it destroyed, you know, more relationships than it helped build. You know, it put me in situations that I knew better to be in. My decision-making skills were little to none.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, it worked for a while. Right. And then it just stopped working, you know what I mean? And I just had to kind of like abstain from doing it, you know, and find my own other path, you know, somewhere else. And luckily around the same time, you know, I was joining Rancid and I kind of could just dive into the music and really kind of be part of that. And it's so funny because, like, you know, I remember there wasn't a time where I wouldn't get up and play guitar, do whatever it was, unless I was, you know, had a few beers or did some this over here or whatever. And I always used to think I was so creative, you know, like, oh, I'm so creative right now. God damn it, you know?
Yeah.
But in actuality, like sometimes I'd record this stuff and I'd listen to the next morning. I was like, just shut the fuck up already, you know? And, you know, seriously. And I connected, you know, I used to say, you know, that music was everything to me. And it wasn't until I sort of, my kind of personality type, when I stopped doing the mind altering substances, like that's when I really resonated with music kind of for the first time, you know?
Yeah.
It wasn't just something to help flow the anger that I was feeling or the angst or whatever the fuck it was that I was feeling, you know?
Yeah.
I had just had so many bad experiences, bro. Like, you know, I got so many graphic experiences. I don't even necessarily know if they're even like, you know, there's no way in hell are they PG rated, you know what I mean? And it's just, you know, just the fucking amount of dumb, decisions I made, you know?
Yeah.
And, once I kind of got that out of my life, I started sort of getting a better sense of myself, you know?
Yeah. And things probably ironically got way more interesting.
They did.
Without the fucking madness.
Well, listen, I'll tell you what, man, they got way more interesting really, really fast. And before I could even, you know, take a look around, life was just getting like better and worse and better and worse and better. I mean, it was such an up and down thing, but you know, all I did was just abstain from getting fucking fucked up. And it was like, it worked out. You know?
Yeah.
And that's why I always say, like, you know, once I stopped doing all those things, that's when I really, truly became a man. And that was just my experience. I'm not saying that's what you have to do to become a man, but that was for me, what helped me become a man. And that's one thing I can say I am a man. And I mean that is because I've started becoming accountable, you know? Just like a woman becomes a woman or a man becomes a man or, you know, I mean, we have people now that don't identify as either or, but they find themselves. And that, I guess maybe that
you found yourself.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I understand.
So, you know, I think that's when I sort of, you know, put that stuff to the side, that's when I started to figure out what it was I wanted to do, who the fuck I was. And, you know, I liked what I saw and I went and I kept with it. And that's why I sometimes just fucking laugh at some of the shit that goes on because you know, I guess when you've been to fucking hell and back and you survived and you got out of it pretty much unscathed I ended up a lot better than like 80% of my friends. I'll tell you that much right now.
Fuck yeah.
You kind of realize like how petty and how stupid this whole fucking shit is and how insignificant and how fucking temporary it all is. You just kind of go, wow, that was fucking stupid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
everybody's complaining. Everybody's got a beef. Everybody's got a personal problem. It's just like, dude, like, really, this is what you're here for? This is all you're expecting? This is all you really want to do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's insane. It's insane.
Well, it's crazy, you know, getting clean and experiencing everything head on, you know, and, you know, having Tim was recovering too at that same time, I'm guessing with, so you had someone there too that was getting off everything and living a sober lifestyle at the same time, but someone so close to you. And then everything started blowing up huge, you know, back when people still bought records and, you know, once Rancid took off, I mean, I can only imagine the fucking schedule, the stress, the excitement, you know, of just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, just explosion. And then, you know, all of a sudden having one of the coolest jobs in the world, you know? And
yeah, you know, it was a strange, you know, time for sure, because you know, I never felt like I was deserved it. I never really felt like I deserved anything. If anything, quite the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I didn't deserve it, you know? And then, you know, an ex-wife took it all anyway. So I guess I didn't deserve it.
Fuck. That's another thing I was going to ask you when you were talking about prepping for, you know, your kids' futures and everything when you're gone, how, you know, being, you know, kids at the time, how managing that kind of explosion of income and notoriety, if you set yourself up right. If, you know, that's one thing I like to talk about too is, you know, did you make the right decisions, or by dumb chance, or, you know, looking into it, you seem to have a good grasp on you know, who you were and what you wanted. But now that answers that question.
Yeah. I mean, you know,
baby.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happens, you know, so,
Fuck.
But it wasn't the thing that I think that, you know, I never really put much into success. To me wasn't a big bank account, nice house, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. Success to me was like being happy at what I did.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I never really looked at it like when you know, all that stuff went down, like I wasn't really afraid of losing it. You know, I just kind of was like, because I wasn't really paying attention to it anyway. You know?
You didn't have it before and you were fine. So
yeah, I mean, and honestly, it made things a lot better.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, everybody's got bills to pay, but you know, contrary to popular belief, you know, I'm not a millionaire, you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
You know, I think that for me, like, put the stock that's worth putting things into.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about finance or romance or anything. No, not right now. It's about, you know, sorry, I'm talking to my kids.
Oh, no problem.
As I'm scolding them, I'm talking about how much I love them.
Yeah.
So because that's what I was about to say is it's, you know, it's the love that you have. It's that, you know, the family thing, you know, for me. So
yeah,
mostly the kids, you know, so
sure.
But yeah, you know, it's such a hard thing because you go up and you go down, and I just never put that much stock into it because, you know, that's not really the key to happiness. I mean, some people will say you're fucking crazy, you know, or whatever. And it's like, well, dude, you know, it's just been my experience, but it's not the thing that makes you feel better. Like I live in probably the richest city you can live in, and I see more frowns and more assholes who probably have more than all of us combined. They ain't fucking happy.
Loads of debt and trying to keep up with the Joneses, man.
I mean, it's and then not only that, but just, you know, I don't begrudge anybody a bad time for having money or having love or having success. I just don't.
Yeah.
You know, to me, that's like, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. Why would I hate somebody for having more? I mean, I used to, but it's like everybody's on their own fucking path, you know, and everybody's going to experience what they're going to experience in their lifestyle, in their lifetime.
Yeah.
And like, you know, for me, all I want to do is just try to, you know, do as much as I can here that is in a positive way. You know, I don't have the PMA or anything like that. I'm not going there. I'm just saying, like, I just wanted to make as much music as I possibly can. I'm not trying to get all fucking, youth of today on youth crew on you.
Yeah.
But all I'm trying to do is just, you know, not step on anybody's toes and enjoy life while I can, because like I said, you know, I'm 47 years old. I don't know how many years I got left.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to spend the rest of my remaining time hating on somebody because, you know, I don't agree with them, or, you know, if you're going to come in my face and say some shit, you know, yeah, we're going to have a problem, but I'm not going to go out of my way and, you know, try to fight everybody who doesn't like me or has a bad word to say me, or hug or kiss everybody who has a nice thing to say about me.
Yeah.
So, which is I'd probably be doing a lot more hugging and kissing than I would be, but fighting, but you know, which is that's a nice place to be, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, like I said, it's for me, I just see this as such a temporary little journey. And, I just want to do what I can while I'm here.
Sure. Well, you've done a lot of things that are going to way outlast your mortal life, you know, where, I mean, the music you've created and you've touched a lot of people's lives through what you're doing, you know. That's one of the cool things about being in music is it predates language. Like Ian MacKay and I were talking about this, like the music predates language. It's so important. And, you know, the way it can touch people anywhere in the world, you know, and change their lives. It can pull them out of a situation. It could save their life, you know, like it's insane the power it has. And it seems, if you think about it literally, it doesn't seem that like big of a deal, but once you've experienced it, like how punk rock touched you at an early age and your whole life, it became that, you know what I mean?
Well, I know it's the cliche, you know, rock and roll saved my life or whatever, but it did.
Yeah.
Straight up. I'm that example. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all I've ever tried to do in my life with music is to make music that I wanted to hear. Mm-hmm. You know, that's all I've ever wanted to do. If I push some people's buttons along the way, cool. If I did something that helped people feel a little bit safer, like I did, you know, by listening to the music I listened to, then fuck yeah, then cool. But I never went out to consciously do anything other than make music I wanted to hear and do what I wanted to do and share that with, you know, in most cases, 3 other dudes.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the thing, like with the Old Firm Casuals or any band that I play in, you know, Last Resort, Oxy's Midnight Runners, Stomper 98, Rancid, whatever. It's like when we're playing together and we're playing those songs and playing that music, it's unlike any other connection that you can experience with another human being, unless you've done it before.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and part of the thing why I love the Casuals so much is because, you know, just like Rancid and just like the other bands, you got 3 other guys. Well, in Stomper, there's 6 guys total. But my point is that we're all in the same path. And when you're walking down the same road with people, and you got that camaraderie with you, and like sometimes the fucking drive to the gig, well, most of the time, the drive to the gig and the drive home from the gig are the best parts of the night because of the camaraderie that you have.
Sure.
That's when you know it's real. That's when you know that's when you know you got something good.
Yeah.
It's not if there's 10,000 people in the audience. It's not if you're fucking, you know, cashing checks and all that stuff. Sure, all that's nice. But what is really real is, like I said, the drive to the venue and the drive home, because that's where the band is made. You know, on the stage, you can tell if the band is together.
Oh, yeah.
You can tell. You can always tell. That's the one thing you cannot fake. And if you're having a good time and everybody else is having a good time, then you know that the band's having a good time doing it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, man, you can see a lot of bands and you're just like, oh, and as a band guy, I'm going, I don't think those dudes get along very well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But every band has its ups and downs. I mean, fuck. I mean, we've been, Rancid's been together, the four of us, at least me, Matt, and Tim, 25, 26 years, and with Brandon a long time. And, the Casuals are coming up on 8 years. And, I'm relatively new with Stomper and The Last Resort. But, like, and I think it's just the way that you approach it now, It's like when I remember going up and doing the shows with The Last Resort in Canada, and how much freaking fun it actually was. Mm-hmm. Just because the amount of laughs and the amount of shit talking and the fucking piss taking and the, and just the camaraderie that we had around it, and just, making fun of each other and just being so relaxed. And like the gig was just like secondary.
Yeah.
It was like the hangout was and that's what you want it to be like. It can't always be like that. It's got to ebb and flow.
Sure.
But I mean, that's the ideal situation. And when you do experience those things, you realize how good you actually got it. And it's better than it's better than any woman. It's better than any amount of money. It's better than any fucking, sort of house or car or fucking whatever bullshit thing that you can think of. It's better than all of that. It's like the most, when you're locked in with your band and you're doing your show and you're right there in the moment with everyone, that is the best fucking feeling in the world. That's better than drinking. That's better than drugs. That's better than sex. It's better than eating, whatever it is, buying shit. It's better than everything, because it's that moment, however long it may last, 45 minutes to an hour and a half or whatever, that you're playing, that you forget about everything, that everything's all right. There is not a problem in the fucking world. You might be spitting some venomous lyrics, and you might be talking some shit or reliving some past experiences or breakups or heartache or fucking whatever, downtrodden times, whatever, fucking hitting the bottom of the barrel, whatever. You're singing it, you're doing it, you're reliving it. And trust me, like when, some of these songs, you relive it,
Yeah.
And there's still not a fucking care in the world. And that is the best kind of therapy you can ever, money can't buy that.
No,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely not. And that's something where you become the cool part, the cool paradox here with that is, talking about riding to the show, back from the show, like that camaraderie. That's the time that people in your position who do something that not everyone can do, on the level that they can do it at, as far as being on stage, playing for 10 people, playing for 100 people. A lot of people, yes, can do that, but you have that in your heart, you have that in your soul, and you do that. But those people that are coming to see you are experiencing that same thing, that excitement, that camaraderie on the way to the show and the way home when they're talking about it. You know what I mean? You both share that same experience, which is so cool, because it's still, and then when you're on stage and they're in the audience, they're having, that time of their life while you're doing the same thing. You're going through therapy on stage. You're playing these songs that you love, it's just cool to think for those times to the show and back, you're on the same level. You know what I mean? Where it's real.
Totally. And it's so funny because, sometimes I go see a band I really, really like, and most of the time it'd be, taking the kids to go see Slayer or,
Yes.
Or going to Motorhead or, going to see, I go see a lot more metal shows than I do punk shows, just because my kids are more into the metal stuff, and, and you get that excitement, and it's so funny because it's like, it's the mind fuck that happens, because I'm so like trained to, like, when I'm going to the show, I'm mentally preparing myself to play the show.
Yeah.
And then you have to remind yourself a few times, fuck, I'm not playing. It's all good. I'm here to enjoy it. Yeah. And it's this crazy mind fuck, because, like, most of my life I'm in some sort of vehicle going to go play, right? And then the times that I'm not, and I'm with people, I still got to kind of like, turn the light switch off.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of a bizarre kind of experience to have. And then you remind yourself, oh shit, I don't have to play. And then all of a sudden, like your shoulders start to relax. Your lower back was hurting and now it's not. And just, just shit like that. You're just like, what the fuck? It's just, but that's the mental thing that I go through,
Sure.
Because for me, when I step on stage, I want to play every show like it's my last. And I know that's, some people say that and some people achieve that, but that's really what I want to do. I really want to go up there and burn the fucking house down. Like, that's what I want to do. I want to, be the best I possibly can be. And that's the way I've always been. And I've always strived to be better. And I don't apologize for any of that. You know what I mean? I wasn't happy with what hand I was dealt with. I wasn't going to sit down and take it. I'm not going to apologize for my success. I'm not going to apologize for my failures. Mm-hmm. I don't owe anybody anything. I'm a self-made man. That's the fucking truth. I've never taken a fucking handout. If you don't like me, I don't really give a fucking shit. If you love me, well, I'll send you some love back. But I really don't care what people's opinions are. I don't give a flying utter fuck at all. You can't take away anything that I've done. You never will be able to. You cannot make me love less or love more or hate less. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All I know is at this point in my life, like, all that matters to me are my two boys and the music I make. And that's enough. I have enough. My family and my music.
Yeah.
And nothing else. You can't, there's nothing you will ever say that will get to me. Whether it's accolades or insults, it just doesn't, that's where I'm at. If you want the honest assessment, that's where I'm at.
Man, well, that's amazing. I love it's refreshing to hear, the honesty, and not fronting on things and through this whole chat. I mean, you've just been very honest. I appreciate that very much. And it just holds true to your character, I wanted to ask you, I mean, these podcast episodes, like, I used to prep for them like crazy. I'd have 2 or 3 pages of notes and I never used them. So I stopped and I was just like, you know what? We're going to chat. And that's exactly what we've done. And I love just bringing genuine conversation to people, as like we were talking about technology, where everything's getting done for you. To get on the phone with somebody is something a lot of people don't do every day, even, in their own life. And, the one question, though, in my mind that I wanted to actually ask you that I thought about in advance, being a father myself and growing up in punk rock metal, being a touring musician for 12 plus years.
Right.
I mean, I've been there, I've done that, not on the level that you have. The guys that I played with are doing that now. But when you became a father, I wanted to know what is one of the biggest things you gave up from your punk rock life that you felt you had to give up for your kids, or if there was anything, and the biggest thing you've learned to adopt into your lifestyle.
Well, when you have kids, you truly figure out how selfish you really are.
Oh yeah.
And I'll tell you right now, as much as I felt like I wasn't selfish, I realized that I was extremely selfish. And the one thing that maybe I gave up, and I don't necessarily know if it was punk rock or not, but was I sort of, well, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of the things that, I mean, you change. So I think a lot of the selfishness I tried to give up.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if I was successful, but, because it's, for me, I still have that thing ingrained in me that I'm going to live life the way I want to live life on my own terms,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I know that like I have been selfish with the kids, and I know I have made mistakes, and but I don't necessarily know if there's one specific thing that I gave up for them. Like I don't necessarily know if my morals or my values or anything that I would want to give up for somebody. Like I just don't think I'm wired that way. You know?
Yeah.
I don't. Maybe that sounds selfish. I'm not too sure. I haven't really thought about that, but because I feel like I've lived my life in the truest, most possible, purest form I can, right? Mm-hmm. But some people might not see it that way, and some people could be my children too. I don't know. I guess when I'm dead and gone, they'll have the tell-all books.
Yeah, but, or they'll be on a podcast and the same thing.
Well, I'll tell you what. I know my kids. Like they're both they're playing a band. They're doing their stuff. They're very talented at what they do. I mean, my 11-year-old's writing songs, and he's got a thing,
Yeah.
And same with my 7-year-old. He plays drums like fucking, and he's and they're going to outshine anything I've ever done anyways in their life.
That's awesome.
And I want that.
Yeah. That's the goal.
I'd rather take a fucking backseat when it comes to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think maybe that's the one thing that I will say that has been the biggest challenge for me is that defining the selfishness. Like, of course you want to give them everything that you never had.
Sure.
And then but you don't want to give them too much, so they turn out like spoiled little assholes. And then we're not doing really any service to society in general. I think we already see what that does,
Sure.
I think we're living in it, but, I think I never really gave up a sense of myself. I think what I gave up was a lot of the negative parts of myself because they didn't work anymore. They didn't serve me anymore, Mm-hmm. Like the sacrifices that I've made, it's sometimes they've been hard, and sometimes they've been rather easy that I've made for them. For instance, I've never thought I'm losing something as a result of this. Mm-hmm. I've always thought maybe I'm gaining something from this.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I feel like, no one can completely parent perfectly. It's just not attainable,
Yeah. No one knows what they're doing.
I mean, people get, it's like, I remember this woman wrote this book called Free Range Kids, and she got a lot of shit for it. Or she did a blog or something about how she let her son ride the New York City subway to go get a loaf of bread or something like that. And he was like 8 years old or something. And then everybody came at her so hard about how could she do that? She endangered her child and blah, blah, this and that, and this and that, and this and that. And you're an irresponsible parent and so on and so forth. And it's like, we're actually living in the safest times for kids. That's the facts. It's not your opinions that matter. It's the facts, right? It's kind of like science. A lot of people argue science. Oh, the climate is not changing. This one scientist guy says it's not. So I'm going to believe the one scientist guy out of the 100,000 who say that it's R. I'm going to believe the one. It's like, come on, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I guess I've never been really that religious, or I always thought that, if there was a religion, it should be accountability, and that's being accountable for one's own actions, Mm-hmm. Not worried about don't worry about it. God will take care of us. He'll come and save us. Don't worry about it. You can just do that for now. It's like, I never really thought of maybe it's just because, I'm a pagan, like a motherfucker. I'm a heathen, but, and I reject all that kind of shit, but, I feel like where I'm going with this, she wrote that book, Free Range Kids. And I feel like a little bit like, I don't know how we got into this topic or how I even got here from your question, but it's like you almost got to like let them go a little bit to figure out what they are, because if you try to shelter them too much, and granted, I probably could have used a little bit more sheltering, in my experience, but like, but the days of like, I mean, I live in the city, so it's a little bit different of a situation, but I remember being a kid and just my mom, leaving the house at 9 a.m. and my mom said, just be home when the streetlights come on.
Yep. Been there.
You would just fucking go out and explore and see things and fucking learn shit and learn how to deal with people and learn different challenges. And, yeah, you broke some rules. Yeah, you broke some laws, but you still fucking made it out alive, and I just feel like that's in some ways we don't give our kids that opportunity because we think the world is so dangerous. Well, I don't think I think obviously the world is a dangerous place. I mean, you'd be, an idiot to think it isn't. But I mean, just with today's, the way that the TV news is, I mean, they're looking for fucking advertising money.
Mm-hmm.
So they're looking for the shock value to get you to tune in, right?
Yeah.
So all they're going to want to talk about is fucking death and destruction and what this guy said and how this guy lied and whatever. And then they'll have maybe a minute blurb about how the fireman saved the cat in a tree at the end of the news.
Yeah, the human interest story at the end to make everyone feel good.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you think about it, it's like all the shit that you're getting, fed, whether through Facebook or Instagram or any kind of social media stuff or any TV news outlets, and they're all there to make money. Okay. They're all there to make money by shoving down their opinion down your throat. Right.
Yeah.
They're pushing the emotional triggers. That's why you're tuning in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So right there, they got you by the balls. So they can go out there and say some outstanding, crazy thing like our president does that has there's no fact to it whatsoever, but he'll make you believe it because he says it 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it keeps everybody scared and tuned in and saying, no, if he says it. We have so much trust in these institutions and these things that we should realistically have trust in these things because we've set them up as a society. But the thing is we need to take them back from those who are not honest and not trustful.
Mm-hmm.
So I know I'm going on a tirade. Fuck, I should just shut up. But but my point is that like if there is one thing that I've been a little bit like, I let my kids express themselves and figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
I do stifle their creativity when I think necessary. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because I think that's part of the process. You want to be creative, then your creativity needs to be stifled every once in a while. you know what I mean? And that's just my little mind fuck. So maybe that's where maybe that's the title of their book, How I Was Stifled by My Dickhead Father by Soren Wolfgang Fredericksen. But like, I don't know. I've gave up obviously a lot for them and I don't mind, but I don't think about it as that. I feel like it was an even trade. I would gladly do that for my blood any day of the week.
Yeah.
So,
they're giving you something back as well,
Oh, they've given me, dude, listen, they've given me every day, even when they don't listen to me, even when they lash out at me or call me a noob or fucking, or whatever it is, they can call me all kinds of names, but if they drop F-bombs, then we got problems. But my point is that like, even when, it's supposed to be a battle with boys.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be. That's how they make their way in the world. I remember when Hillary Clinton calling them super predators, all these kids.
Yeah.
They're demonizing these kids who are doing exactly what they're fucking supposed to be doing at that age. And yeah, I guess, killing somebody takes it too far. I get it.
Yeah.
But I mean, and then you look then you start to question it. Like, they're demonizing these kids so they get tried as adults, so they get thrown in prison, so the prisons can profit. That's who's funding your campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you get it now? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
So I listen, I know I'm all over the place, so I hope that answered your question.
No, it absolutely did. And that's the one question I had, the rest is just, a conversation. And man, I don't want to. I mean, I could keep talking to you for a long time, but I don't want to take up more of your afternoon. I appreciate you coming on and being so open and honest about things. And it's been an absolute pleasure for me too. Getting to pick your brain and just chat. It's something I really appreciate, having this show and being able to connect with people, and it's something that's super important to me. And the emails that come in later from listeners that, holy shit, like I had no idea this, and this, or this helped me, or hearing this person say this changed this about me, it's cool. So,
well, that's cool. I mean, all I know is that there's no big deals today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like no one's dead. And the world is still here, and I'm on two legs, and every day on two legs is a good fucking day. So,
yeah, you
know what I mean? Everything is just fucking, it's all so temporary. It's just not worth it,
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you, man. And I was going to say that Instagram post about your son's pink hair that I saw the other day. Dad, you want to dye my hair pink? Fuck yeah. And then it ends with whatever, Dad. It was just like, oh my God, you're living it.
Yeah, I mean, they don't get the LL Cool J reference at all, and it's so funny because I remember Wolfgang's voice started cracking. I was like, "Oh, what's up, Peter Brady?" And he looks at me like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Peter Brady.
And then I have to go on YouTube and find the "It's Time to Change" song,
Yeah.
And show, and then they get it, But my kid, they both have really incredibly great senses of humor, and they're very self-deprecating. So it helps, because they have that irony. And I mean, wow, God, I'll just end with this, but one of the best jokes I've ever heard came out of my 11-year-old's mouth. We're driving in the car, and he goes, and he's trying to cut on his little brother, right? And he's like, "Hey, Soren." And Soren goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "You were born on the highway." And Soren looked at him like, "What?" And Soren goes, "Dad, was I born on the highway?" I'm like, "What are you talking about, Wolf?" He goes, "Hey, Soren." Soren goes, "What, Wolf?" He goes, "You were born on the highway." And I go, "Born on the highway? What do you mean, Wolf?" And he goes, "That's where all the accidents happen."
Oh, shit.
And I'm losing my shit trying to make a left-hand turn, right? And I'm just like, what the fuck, dude? That is some gnarly ass shit.
Sweet
man.
burn.
That's a cut. That's a fucking cut,
Oh my God.
I mean, poor Soren, totally clueless, but just that's the kind of humor we have here in the South. But I just thought it was like, oh my God, how the fuck? And I'm like, where the fuck did you learn that, bro? And he's like, well, hockey dressing room, because he played hockey forever. So he's like, I'm like, Jesus Christ. But I just thought, share that with you.
Dude, that's beautiful.
That's why we laugh around here.
Yeah.
But Soren gets him back too. You know what I mean? But that's how we do it. We try to keep it as light as possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We the same way. My 5-year-old the other day in the car said, "Dad, when it's raining, the sky I can't even. Oh my God. Okay. I gotta try to say this because it's one of those quotes. I've been sending it to my buddy Kyle when she says it. But when it rains, the sky thinks we're flowers. I was like, oh, but this isn't it. And then she says, and it's pissing in our face. That was it. Just randomly eating an ice cream cone. It wasn't raining. It was sunny out. Portland, Oregon. Just out of nowhere. That's exactly how it works. It's pure and natural, the way it should
be. Yeah, I mean, but that's the beauty of it all, right? Because you start seeing the through their eyes again, and you're just like, oh my God. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's too short to be so fucking self-serious. You know
exactly.
What I mean?
Exactly. Oh my God.
All right,
dude,
brother.
Lars, dude, thank you so much, man. It's been a pleasure. I'm gonna have to catch up with you when I think you guys are playing up here with Rancid and Tacoma probably with that festival. So I'll hit you guys up. That's it's been a long time since I've seen you guys. So
Right on, man.
And you guys, man, thank you for doing what you do and being who you are. You had a huge impact on my life, and
Thank you, bro.
I can't say enough good things. So I appreciate the time this afternoon, man.
Well, and my pleasure. It was great. I had an awesome time. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. We'll talk to you soon. I'm going to talk to Matt Freeman tomorrow, I guess. So,
yeah, I know. I know.
Anything I should throw at him?
Well, his new band's insane.
It is. It's so
awesome. Fucking good. It's so awesome. Fucking good.
Man.
So
okay.
All right.
Thanks, brother.
And all right. Talk to you soon.
All right, brother. Bye-bye. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Lars Fredericksen from Rancid, the Old Firm Casuals, Lars Fredericksen and the Bastards, countless other bands. This man has influenced so many people, including myself. It was an absolute pleasure to speak with him, and we had a blast. I hope you guys enjoyed listening as well. Got something from his insights and enjoyed some of his stories. They're absolutely amazing. I mean, we could have gone for another 2-3 hours, but in the sake of time and everyone being busy, we did an hour and a half. So that's all you get. But I appreciate you guys coming back week after week. You guys have been fantastic. This episode 100 is a huge milestone for me and everyone here at the show. I have loved bringing you this show, and I will continue to do so. But thinking about back on 100 episodes of how many hours of conversation that is with some awesome people and the stories. And I mean, thinking back is just so hard to remember my favorites. But, maybe on this bonus episode, we'll discuss that more. But guys, I really wanted to bring you this episode with Lars. Next week, we have another awesome episode with another member of Rancid, Matt Freeman from Rancid, Operation Ivy, and now Charger. Charger's a great band as well. And we did a two-person interview. So we had Jason from the band Charger as well. He also plays drums for Jello Biafra and the Guantanamo School of Medicine. It was an awesome interview. It went really well. I know I don't do a lot of two-person interviews, but this one couldn't have gone any better. I really had a great time with Matt and Jason. So stay tuned for that one next week. Stay tuned for the mini episode coming out as well with those voicemails from the past guests and friends, and then also that interview. That's a fairly short interview. It was one we got cut off and weren't able to reconnect. But nonetheless, I want to get it out there. So stay tuned for that. But guys, thank you so much. Thank you to Christina, and thank you to Lars for coming on. Thank you guys for coming back week after week. Check out our sponsors, stickerninja.com, artistflags.com, Merge4, all on Instagram as well. Big thanks to all those guys keeping the lights on, and big thanks to you. So as always, guys, we'll see you on the radio.